Welcome to Gene and Mike do the New York Times crossword.
Hi, I'm Jean.
And I'm Mike. And today we're doing the crossword for Thursday, January 9th, 2025. Did you do the crossword?
I did do the crossword.
And was it a terrific Thursday crossword?
It was pretty terrific, yes.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Good?
It was a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It took us a while. I'm still tag teaming with our youngest.
Yes.
And we got kind of bogged down in the middle.
Bogged down in the middle.
But boy, he figured out the theme right away, so that certainly helped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, the theme was quite interesting and near and dear to my heart.
Yes, as a pilot, I am sure you breezed through this.
No, actually, I got the revealer wrong.
You did?
I did get the revealer wrong because the name of the... Well, why don't you talk about the theme, and then I'll explain the error of my ways.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell the revealer first, because then that'll make the theme seem much more sensible. But 38 down was kind of the revealer. And the answer to that, or the clue to that, was group whose alphabet is used 8 times in this puzzle. And that group is NATO. So the NATO alphabet that is used by pilots, right, as well as, I think, military, right? Military personnel.
Probably.
Showed up in the puzzle 8 times. And you knew it was a themed clue with a NATO alphabet because it was italicized. So the first one was 17 across, Charlie horse. And of course, Charlie is the NATO alphabet for C. So it was a horse that began with C, and the answer was Clydesdale. And then the next one was 21 across, Papa, bear, Papa being the NATO alphabet word for P. So you had to find a word that began with P that meant bear, and that was panda. And then we had 2 right together, 26 across was Sierra Leone, Sierra being the alphabet, NATO alphabet designation.
For S?
Yes, and the answer there was Sergio. I'm not quite sure why, but is Leone, so maybe there's a Leone Sergio?
So
or
this...
there's a Sergio, I'm not sure.
This sounded vaguely Spanish, which means I abandoned all thinking of this process and just moved on to the next clue.
It sounded more Italian.
Oh, really?
I didn't recognize that one.
Okay.
The next one was 27 across, tango number. So it had to be a number beginning with T, and the answer was 13. Mm-hmm. And then we had 40 across, golf course. And so you needed a course that began with G, and that turned out to be gazpacho, which is a soup served as a first course in a meal.
Right.
And then right next to that was 42 across, whiskey soda. So you had to have a soda that began with a W, and that was WELCHS. They're not known as much, I think, for their soda as for their juices. But
I was going to say, I just thought...
They do make some sodas.
Okay.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And then we had 45 across, Quebec City, Quebec being the NATO alphabet word for Q. And so the city that began with Q was Quito. Right. Which is in South America. And then finally we had 51 across, alpha male. And then in parentheses it said double, which meant that there were actually 2 A words together, which denoted a male. And in this case, that male was Arthur Ashe. Yes. 2 A's, 2 alphas. Mm-hmm. So anyway, very clever. But there were other parts of the puzzle we just had a lot of trouble with, especially in the middle. Right. Because 35 across was Italian for baked, and we didn't know what that was. Mm-hmm. 35 down was Pixar film set in the fictional town of Santa Cecilia, and we didn't know what that was. And 32 down, notable site for enlightenment, and we had no idea what that was. Mm-hmm. So there were like 3, and then actually the one next to that, 27 down, was entire in Italian, We didn't know what that was. So there were like 3 downs and 1 across that we had no idea.
Right.
So we had to play around with that a lot. We finally remembered the Pixar movie was Coco.
Right.
We got the O's. I'm like, oh, it's Coco. And so then from that, Coco, we found out Italian for baked was Cata. And the 32 down, the Enlightenment site was a Bodhi tree.
Mm-hmm.
And the Italian for entire was Tutto.
Right.
Tutto. So we eventually got it, but boy, we really kind of struggled there in the middle.
Yeah, I had problems. Well, I didn't have too much trouble with Coco. Originally, I put down Loco, and I thought it sounded right for a minute, and then I thought that doesn't sound like a great name for a Disney. It means crazy. So I decided that the Disney lawyers, if nobody else at that fine institution, would not let it ship with that name.
Right.
And so realized it was Coco. And then I had, for 35 across, well, I had C, I had a blank, because I had a letter, but it was the wrong one, and then TTA. My problem was with 32 down, the notable site of enlightenment. It had a B and then a letter that I wasn't sure about, and then I had a D and then an H and then an I, and I thought, it's maybe Buddha or Buddhist.
That's where we were kind of going with it, but that's not how you spell
that
Buddha.
Required you misspell Buddhism,
yeah.
which seemed pretty rude.
Right.
And the New York Times would not let that stand.
No.
So, and then I started thinking about, so Odin, I think, didn't he hang himself on a tree to gain or give up an eye for enlightenment or something? I thought a tree was somehow involved, the world tree in Odin. Anyway.
We had tree, but we just didn't know what kind of tree.
Right. And it was a Bodhi tree.
A Bodhi tree.
Which I believe is a tree that only exists in crossword grids. You have to water it and feed it with good clues.
I suppose.
The problem that I had with 38 down, the group whose alphabet is used 8 times in this puzzle. So I was thinking, it was. I was thinking about ICAO, the alphabet code that is assigned to airports, and it ended with an O. So I just said ICAO, and then I realized nothing was working there with ICAO, so I had to pull it out. Mm-hmm. I did like a lot golf course 40 across being gazpacho.
Yes.
That was brilliant. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And very sneaky 45 across Quebec City. So there's, of course, a city in Quebec called Quebec City.
Yes.
That's the capital. Mm-hmm. But this was Quebec. The word city was lowercase.
Right.
So you knew it wasn't.
You had to find a city that began with a Q because Quebec is Q in the NATO alphabet. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought it sort of started off a little bit rudely. One across, eat dirt, say, bite it. Mm-hmm. And
our youngest said, I think that's bite it. I'm like, oh, I don't think so.
Right.
I wouldn't put it in. But he was right. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then we had one down, Fleabag error was BBC.
Right.
So I had the BC first and then figured, well, it could be the CBC, but that would be highly unlikely. Mm-hmm. NBC turned out again to be BBC.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I knew that was British. But
oh, really?
I didn't know what, that doesn't mean anything anymore. Used to be if it was British, it was on BBC. But now there's a lot of British shows that are on Netflix and Disney and whatever. So,
and there are a vast number of British actors who show up in North
everywhere.
American movies and series, and you don't realize it until you hear them on an interview show, and just wait a minute, why does that person sound like they came out of Bristol?
Yeah, like Spider-Man.
Yes,
Holland, he's British, and you'd never know it. But
I'll bet secretly Robert Downey Jr. is too. You get it. You catch him off guard and he'd be saying, "Good day, mate." Wait, that could be more Australian. I'd like to apologize to our Australian listeners for that accent, by the way. I thought 5 down was curious. Cold weather driving hazard, ice rain. Mm-hmm. Never heard of it. Do not believe it exists.
I think we call that sleet up here.
Or hail.
Or hail. Yeah. But I don't know, ice rain.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That must be something that only exists in New York territory. Let's see. Body with many pages, 22 across, was Senate.
Yes.
That was cute.
Very cute.
I had a feeling where they were going with it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, another area that I had problems with. So 7 down was film writer-director Goldberg. And the answer turned out to be Evan.
That's right.
But I had, for 15 across, bring trouble to. I had it ending in EX, and I thought hex. You put a hex on someone. Mm-hmm. So I had Ehan Goldberg.
What a name.
It sounds like a cowboy, right? Ehan Goldberg. And so eventually I looked at that and thought, Ehan, there's something wrong with, and I thought maybe it's like Alan, and I had Lex. And then I realized it was Vex.
That is correct.
So I was vexed by that clue.
Mm-hmm.
We had 16 across, Night of Film, Jedi.
Yes, that was great.
You know, I had the E and the D, and I thought, oh, it's Ted Knight, that actor from long ago, who apparently gathered an extra D, because it would have had to have been TEDD to work. But
Yeah, well, you know, that was capitalized, and you often think, well, then that's the last name of somebody who's in film, but no, it turned out to be Jedi.
Yes.
Jedi Knight.
Well, the Jedi would be, but when you do write Jedi, you would write that capital anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
10 down, which is where we got the J of Jedi, was, let's see, 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 2012, 2014, and 2015, J.J. Watt. Mm-hmm. Did you know J.J. Watt?
I didn't off the top, but once we got Jedi and I saw the J.J., I'm like, oh, it's J.J. Watt.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah.
See, I just didn't recognize the name, and was flailing about there. I did like 21 down, Lynx figures, pars.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't sure I what to do with that. At first, I thought it was like people walking in a golf. I was going for pros, in fact, because I figured there would be pros on the golf course.
Sure.
24 across, awesome in 1990s slang was fat, PHAT.
Right, I remembered that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That word needs to make a comeback.
No, I don't think so.
Yep, it's time. Blank Kennedy Shriver, founder of the Special Olympics, was Eunice.
Eunice, that's right.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, that would help.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what else? Oh, I liked 30 down. To the blank with style. To the nines.
To the nines.
Dress to the nines. That's such a great... I wonder where that came from.
I don't know.
Maybe like a lot of dresses that cost $999.99.
I have no idea.
Or they rated them. Yeah, that was a 9. Of course, then it would have to be, you'd figure it'd be rated to the 10s.
Right.
I am, as we wander back to 42 across whiskey, soda, Welch's, I'm still, I just think Welch's. I think grape juice. So I congratulate the people who did the advertising for grape juice for Welch's. Mm-hmm. But the people who did sodas, they need new jobs because no one knows that they make,
grape soda.
Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Oh, that makes sense. Yep. So as long as it's got grape associated with it. So you can go into like a paint store and you can say, I'll have the Welch's purple or something. 42 down. 1960s dance craze was the Watusi.
That's right. The old Watusi.
I always thought of it as Watutsi.
Oh.
But I've made that mistake before, but I ran out of letters and then I thought, no, it's not Watutsi, it's Watusi. Let's see. 60 across? Maybe. Give me time to think. I'll see. Mm-hmm. I like that one.
Right.
And in the bottom left corner, Groucho Marx's specialty, this is 45 down, was quip.
That is correct.
I was just like, what is his specialty?
Well,
Being
first
funny.
I put quiz. Because he was on a quiz show, wasn't he?
Right.
He was the MC.
He always has to say the secret word. What's the secret word? Tell me what the secret word is. Listeners, you can't tell, but I'm gesturing like I have a cigar in my hand, which I never have, by the way.
But it was quip.
Yes.
He was good with a quip, yes.
I was stunned by 41 down, one of 3,000 plus annually for IBM. Patent.
Right.
I was trying to think of anything that IBM does nowadays. I was thinking like ads. And I had it starting with a P, so I thought it was PC. It's just like they haven't been in the PC business since the term PC went out of fashion.
Right.
So
Yeah, I was wondering what are they patenting? IBM.
I don't know.
Must be some sort of something related to computers or
computing or services or whatever it is that
business
IBM
machines.
whatever it is that IBM does nowadays.
International business machines.
I really think they should bring back their typewriters. That was their heyday. The IBM Selectric. It's time for it to make a return to glory.
But did they make like copy machines?
No, that was Xerox.
Okay. So what other business machines did they make?
They made computers. In fact, they make mainframe computers.
Okay.
Which I'm sure in certain circles are still, sort of the bread and butter.
No, probably, yeah.
Somehow I see them in an insurance realm. Oh, I like 48 across. Cut some slack, ? Taunton.
Taunton, yes.
Wow, that's a word that I did not know existed. So, all right. Well, this was a really great crossword.
And it was by David P. Williams.
His 6th. And he's done a Thursday, a Friday, and 4 Saturdays.
Oh, my.
Be interesting if, let's see, it's Thursday, if the crossword to follow was by him and the crossword to follow on Saturday was also by him. I wonder if they've ever done that. I wonder if Will and or Joel has ever had an author write 2 crosswords in a row.
I doubt it.
I don't think I've seen that.
No, I know.
I mean, I suppose you could have like a 2-parter. Oh, you could do something where like you get half the clue on one day and you get the rest of the clue on the second day.
What would that do to people's streaks?
There'd have to be some way you could figure it out looking at the first set of clues. But if you had 2 of the clues together, it would be an easier crossword to solve.
I don't think that would fly.
Here's what you could do. You would take every second letter of the clue and print it in the first, and then on the second you'd print every, say you started with the even letters on the first day, and then you would print the odd letters of the clue on the second day.
But if you solved it on the first day,
you'd be bored, and you'd have a really great.
Would you get another tick on your streak if you solved it on the second day?
I think if you solved it on the first day, with only seeing half the letters in the clues, they would make you vice editor of the New York Times crossword.
Well, but I mean, you're starting with an advantage. You have half the letters in there already.
Well, that's true. But you probably won't have solved it. Anyways,
I don't know.
I'm sure Will Shorts is listening to this intently right now and taking notes.
Probably.
And his notes read, "Do not ever do what they just suggested because it's stupid!" Yeah. Exclamation point! Exclamation point! And Will, in case you didn't write that down, we'll forgive you for that. All right. Well, I think that is it for today then.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Remember that Friday's crossword's coming up.
That's right.
And we're also going to have a fun fact for Fun Fact Friday. The good thing about not knowing things is there's so many things we didn't know this week. That
there were a lot of things.
We could have a big cornucopia of fun facts.
These were very educational puzzles this week, for me anyway. Yep. I learned a lot from these puzzles.
I learned how to spell arroyo.
Yes. That's correct.
All right. So that is it for today. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We love feedback. crosswordpodcast@icloud.com, or say hi to us on Facebook. And we'll be back again with our in-depth, cutting-edge analysis of Friday's crossword tomorrow.
Bye-bye.